Hey everybody, JMac here, coming at you in another video in the series Building Optionality. I think this is the fourth video, which is good. That means I've been keeping up with a video a week. Last time I covered some questions that were kind of coming across and wanted to make sure to kind of get those answered, especially while we're in a little bit of a lull period here where I'm really trying to find that audience. I've still been writing multiple posts. Again, I kind of dictate those as I talked about last time. I published another one just the other day here. So this turning profitable by rolling trades. I have two more in the pipe, and I actually thought of another one today. So I have content for about 4 weeks now because I'm really rolling these out one a week. And that kind of got me thinking this week. I really wanted to take a step back and cover something that I really meant to cover, I think, a couple videos ago, but there were just so many kind of other things going on at that point. And last time I really focused on questions that I actually didn't get to something that I do pay attention to when I'm drafting this content and I think is worth noting. In fact, another thing that reminded me of this was Justin Jackson. I was recently listening to, started listening to his Product People and his Building a SaaS. He's got something that he started a while back, which I didn't realize I'm actually kind of a real similar approach. I think it's like building a SaaS in 2019 or whatever. So. But he has tons of podcasts out there. He actually has a podcasting platform, transistor.fm, which is something I'm actually going to take a look at myself here because maybe it's a good idea, again, to grow the audience, to maybe take these videos that I'm doing, rip the audio out of them, and turn it into a podcast format for those people that can't listen or don't want to spend the time kind of watching the video. And in fact, I think he does that with some of his topics as well. So just some ideas there. But anyways, going back to kind of what he was talking about in one of those building SaaS in 2019 podcasts was SEO. And this is something I've actually done for a long time, kind of naturally when I'm crafting posts. But it's something that I kind of just didn't really think about that I was doing, but I'm definitely doing it. So I want to slow down and kind of show you some of these things that I do when I write these posts. And really, this came back to me. This is something I had a front end job. I took a front end contract. I'm a back end developer at heart, but I took a front end contract probably about 10 years ago and worked for Humana, which is kind of a regional insurance company. But I worked in their marketing department. They had a web branch and they wanted to rebrand the site and kind of the whole web 2.0 days and separation of content and design and all these things that were coming out, and they really wanted to have kind of a cutting edge marketing kind of web team. So I made it on that team and I was doing a lot more front end stuff, but we worked very, very closely with the marketing people that were focused on advertising, SEO, and so I picked up a lot of like tricks. Some of them were even a little gray hat tricks, so I don't really employ those, but I definitely remember what some of those teammates from that group taught me. When writing posts. So I want to kind of go into those because again, I've done them for so long now, I kind of forget about them. But there's just some really small things that I am doing now that I paid a little bit more attention to when I was listening to Justin's podcast. So let me bring up these posts. I'll bump up this font size a little bit just to make sure everybody can see that okay. I started recording these in 1080, so hopefully it's better. But so this is that profit rolling trade. So this is effectively this article. And so the main thing I want to do is pretty much everything that I do, and you can actually see from these titles that I've gotten a little bit better, but I want to make sure that I'm really driving home certain keywords. Okay, so right now no one knows about the site, no one's really linking to the site. I am getting potentially some SEO mojo by linking from Medium and linking from my own blog and Dev2, eventually linking from forums, public forums on option sites. So those will be helping kind of point Google in the right direction towards this content. So that's good, and that's probably the biggest thing. But I also want to make sure that I'm really feeding Google these keywords so that when I am getting that page weight, from other sites, that Google's also matching that up with like really good content, really keyword-rich content. And I don't want to do it necessarily in a way that it doesn't make it readable, but I want to make sure, again, I'm hitting those keywords. So what are some of these keywords? These keywords here are basically options trading, Trading strategies are words. All sorts of things inside of here that I want to make sure to really hit. And so instead of saying, kind of very generic things like, this is what I was, doing, or it, or this or that worked out well, I'll say something like the options trade worked out well. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of using an opportunity, again, not so much that it's ridiculous and unreadable in a way, but I'm making sure to inject those particular words as much as possible. So if we just do, let's just do this options trade, you'll see, I'll stop there so you get trading and all the variations. Let me just bump up this font size again. But you can see just from that quick find how many times I'm saying that pairing of options trade together, and then I also have words like option and trade also throughout. And then there's other buzzwords from there. There's strategies you'll see a few times is something else. Portfolio is a big word I want to try to have as much as possible. Whoops, if I can spell it right. Portfolio, yeah, you start to see. So, and headings are really good. I want to make sure that I'm really feeding these particular words. So that's something that, again, is just kind of helping with content. It's not doing anything now. It's a, no pun intended, it's an investment for the future. So I'm really kind of trying to be strict about these particular keywords, right? Secondary, this isn't necessarily SEO. This is more about readership. But readership helps because that means I potentially have more cross-linking, more things pointing back to the site. I want to make sure, again, that I'm kind of having a title that hopefully uses some of these buzzwords, potentially all three, so options, trade, portfolio. Eventually I'll work towards those, but also, a title that's something that, people are going to read. So, instead of this is just rolling options trades, I added, turn profitable, right? Or 3 ways to profit by rolling, things like that are actionable. And I think in the current kind of climate are things that kind of attract people in this industry. So any kind of how-tos or anything of that nature definitely help. So I want to make sure that I'm doing things like that. Other than that, markup is another key thing. So I actually believe very heavily in correct markup and giving, using advanced content types or not advanced tags, but just very, precise tagging for certain things. So for example, something else a bit on the technical side is I actually added a new parser to this. So Jigsaw comes with Markdown, but I actually made a Markdown parser. So this is basically just something that allows me to extend for a couple things. So I have inline monospace. I also do abbreviations. So let me jump out of the code and kind of show you this. So for example, anytime I say things about pricing, I definitely tag those in, or it looks like I missed a few here. I definitely try to tag those in with that monospacing. This adds a little bit of tags and ARIA attributes underneath the covers that Google actually, or search engines actually pick up and do well with, right? If you can kind of format that content. It's kind of like using the address tags when you have an address. You're just having those content-rich pieces or those content formats and very rich content on the page. And Google's going to actually crawl those, pull those out, and then kind of just do good things with them. You'll see them in search results, where addresses show up or a phone number shows up, and it's because of this type of tagging or setup and customization within the Google search consoles, which we'll look at here in just a second. The abbreviations or something else. So, I have all these tickers. You have a lot of abbreviations in trading because you have all the different stock tickers. So I make sure to set these up. So for example, the XLE is the Spider Energy Sector ETF, right? The SMH, same thing. It's a semiconductor ETF. I'm calling it SMH in the post directly, but I'm actually having just, again, that little bit of content richness there by using abbreviation tags, the ABBR, right? So let's just actually look at that markup so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I'll bring this up. But you'll see that, again, it wraps it in the appropriate tag, this abbreviation tag, and then it throws the title on it there. That's actually nice, not only for screen readers, but again, search engines picking that up and having more context around the fact that, oh, this post is talking about trading. This post is talking about stocks. So any little bit there, I believe, can help. And these are all kind of, again, just these SEO little things that I try to do. The last thing I think off the top of my head is let's just take a look at this Search Console. So I definitely set up the site here. I have all my sites set up here, but again, not really any traffic to write home about. In fact, no traffic the past few days as far as a web search goes. But setting it up here allows me to do a lot of different things. So it allows me to submit a sitemap. These are things, again, that help Google. It's like, hey, look, here's the sitemap. It has all of my content. And they, from then on, discover different URLs. So they're discovering all my different content here. I can enter it and submit it. It takes a few days. So for example, this took about 10 days here from when I submitted it back when I launched the site on the new year to now, but it's a success. They pulled in 5 new URLs for the site. And each time or each week I'm doing a post, I can go in and submit this again and again and again. So I'm just, again, doing the best I can to feed Google, feed, the most popular search engine, all of this data. And as I build those crosslinks by building my audience, Google's going to, start to get a little more mojo. Now, my goal isn't necessarily to be #1 when you look for options trade, but the goal is to be options trade portfolio or options trading portfolio. Those 3 words. So I want to make sure, again, that when I'm crafting my posts, I'm paying a little bit of attention to those. So that's just a little bit about SEO there. It's a lot of content, I suppose, coming at you a little bit quick, but definitely these are things that matter when you're kind of writing these posts. And again, all of this is optimistic for the future, right? The goal is that I keep churning out these posts, I keep cross-linking them on Medium. Let's just pull one of these up. So once I give it a few days on my site, that's actually another thing. I give it just a few days on my site, and then I basically import the story into Medium, and I'm going to start sharing it on forums, community forums, next week. So I wanted to, again, give it a little time to marinate, so to speak, on my site, so I have ownership and authority, and then I basically import the story and ensure that it has that canonical URL at the bottom. And so what I'm talking about there is this little tag down here. Is important to kind of see, because that's going to say, okay, look, even though this is on Medium, this was originally on Optionality, right? And if Medium's doing a good job, let's view the source. Oh wow, it's all minified. We should see canonical. Yes, let me bump this up. Let me close that and bump this up, and I'll highlight it for everybody. So check this out. This is what we're after. So even though this is on Medium, this little tag here, this link relationship is canonical, and the reference of that is actually the Optionality site. I'm going to click this. Look, it goes straight to that article. So even though it's posted on Medium, I've correctly imported it, and Medium's done the correct job from that import of the URL to actually use that URL in their markup and say, look, we didn't own this content. It actually lives over here, but it's cross-posted here correctly. So as long as it's doing that, search engines, again, even though it's on Medium, are going to know that Optionality, my site, is the one that content, all that stuff's coming from. So that's actually super, super helpful. One last thing, actually, thinking of that, those tags, all those meta tags and so forth, there's a lot of them to go over, but again, they all are helpful. I try to use as many of as possible. Let me pull up this Twitter card validator. And what this is when you post on Twitter, let me bring up Trader JMac on Twitter. There we go. So when you post something on Twitter and it creates this little card, right? All of this is in the meta tags. These are all open graph tags, are what they're called. And Twitter kind of has a very particular set of them. You can look in the documentation to know a bit more about how to set these up. They have pretty good guides on this. But this validator here is actually one that kind of lets you make sure that, okay, this is what it looks like. And you can also use this validator to actually invalidate cache. So if you mess up on some of these tags, you can go out here and preview it, and it'll actually refresh it for you. So if we look at this, it's actually not pulling that up, but it did find 15 meta tags. It found the large summary, and it loaded the card. So the point is that all of these tags are set up. Let's try to get that image to pop in correctly. There we go. So we know that the image was there. And let me demonstrate what that looks like again by just viewing source. One last thing here. because these tags, these meta tags are also pretty valuable, not only, again, to create a good experience for, Twitter when you're sharing, you got a nice big block post here, right? But also the fact that, again, these help different sources read your material correctly. So we have those meta tags here. We have the title. We have descriptions. These are all the old school, meta and description keywords for search engines. But we also have versions for Open Graph, right? So this OG prefix here, or these Twitter prefixes, definitely tell these different types of social media or content sites how to behave with this content, with my article. So we have an article publish time, we have an author, that's me, we have a type, it's an article, we have the site name, optionality, the Twitter creator is my Twitter handle, the Twitter site is again my Twitter handle, the type of card is a large summary card, that's what creates this kind of picture above here, and then it's using that title, that OG title and that OG description for this area down here. So we got this image, and then we have the title. And the overall link comes from that link that I shared or the canonical link on the page. So all of these things are all just very simple things. This OG image, there's the one that it's pulling from, that chart image. So all of these things are things that, I took the time to make sure that each one of these posts have. I take the time to take one of the chart pictures or a stock photo or something to give it just a little bit of life. So again, it's showing up and kind of, hopefully drawing in those readers. But all of those tags, all of those things not only help to draw in readers, but help to kind of make sure that that content's getting funneled back and pointed back to optionality. So again, hopefully in the future, several months down the road, as this site optimistically starts to take off, I have good Google placement already. I'm not having to go buy that placement or do these gray hat tricks or something to try to get that placement quickly. I already kind of have an established presence in a way. So again, while this building, the audience process is super, super slow, it's super, super, time consuming to craft these posts. This is just another dimension that you really want to think about when you're crafting these posts. These are all things that are going to help, hopefully, over time, a longer game here, grow that audience. The Twitter post, the post hopefully next week on the forums, hopefully at some point, if things pick up on Medium or it gets, syndicated or cross-posted within one of the sub-Medium sites, any of those things that, I'm counting on the fact that those things are just a matter of time, but so is this, and this is actually a longer timeline, this SEO stuff. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to it, figure out those keywords, figure out, article titles that kind of help not only get your message across, but potentially draw readership, and they're rich with those keywords, right? Options, trades, portfolio, strategies, things of that nature. So, all right, well, that's about it for this time. Hopefully that kind of helped, gave you some insight into SEO and just another, again, part of the process of kind of crafting these posts. I hope to have another one next week. That's going to give me 4. That's 4 weeks, which is what we outlined in kind of the first video. So now I'm ready. I think there's enough content to kind of go into these forums that I'm already a part of, and hopefully be able to kind of drop these based on maybe the current topics and things that are going on. I can kind of cater. And I'll maybe be able to get myself across those measurements so we can get to some more interesting things, hopefully, like building the splash page and maybe even starting to build the product. So again, those are definitely more interesting, but these are so important. So I don't want to forget that. So don't forget, leave your comments and questions as you have them. I'll try to answer more of them in each video, or just do a full video again if there's kind of an easy week in the future. But for now, leave your comments on YouTube. Hit me up on Twitter @TraderJMac, and see y'all next time.